I was fired on my wedding day. Please stay with me as I tell you my story. Please don't forget to like, share with your family and friends, and subscribe to our channel. Your subscription means a lot to us. Now back to my story. For 7 years, my life revolved around Greaves and Company, a prestigious marketing firm with glass walls and a reputation for chewing up employees like sunflower seeds. I was the exception, or so I thought. I'd started as an assistant, making coffee and organizing campaigns that I never got credit for. Slowly, I climbed, earning the title of senior brand strategist. I gave them everything: nights, weekends, even canceled vacations, because I believed loyalty was rewarded. Martin Greaves, our CEO, liked to say I was the spine of this company. I wore that praise like armor. Every late-night email, every emergency meeting, it all felt worth it. Planning my wedding had been the first time in years I'd asked for something for myself. Martin had smiled Hen, I told him, even offered me extra leave. We take care of our own, he said. It felt genuine, but something in his eyes flickered quick, almost imperceptible, before he turned away. Melissa, my colleague, was the only one who seemed less than thrilled about my engagement. She had a way of asking about Ethan, my fiancé, that felt like probing for cracks. He's an architect. Oh, that's interesting, she'd say, letting the word interesting hang like smoke. In the weeks leading up to the wedding, I worked harder than ever, determined to leave everything perfect while I was away. But small things began to go wrong: files missing from my drive, meeting invites that accidentally excluded me, clients mentioning emails I'd never sent. On the eve of my wedding, I received an anonymous email. Check your project files before tomorrow. You're being set up. My first thought was that it was a prank. My second thought, the one I couldn't shake, was that it might already be too late. I met Ethan Ward 3 years ago, long before wedding dresses and seating charts were even a thought. It was at a high-profile development pitch. My firm was competing for the branding contract on a luxury complex, and Ethan was the lead architect for one of the bidding firms. He had that easy kind of charm that makes you forget you're in a boardroom. Sharp suit, sleeves rolled just enough to hint at a man who worked with more than just blueprints. We were on opposite sides of the pitch, but during the coffee break, he caught me in the hall studying the model of the building his team had designed. Tell me what you'd change, he said. No preamble, no small talk. I laughed. You don't want a marketer's critique of an architect's dream. On the contrary, he replied, it might make it better. That conversation spilled into dinner, then into late-night phone calls. And before I knew it, we were navigating a relationship between two people whose jobs thrived on deadlines and stress. He understood my long hours, and I understood his sudden travel for site inspections. We built something sturdy out of overlapping chaos. When he proposed, on the balcony of the small apartment we'd been sharing, I said yes without hesitation. He wasn't perfect, but he was steady, or so I thought. What I didn't know was that Ethan had once worked with a man named Alan Greaves, Martin's brother, on a project that had ended badly. Ethan never mentioned it, and I had no idea Martin even knew. That omission would later prove to be more than just a gap in our conversations. Looking back, the warning signs weren't just at work. They were everywhere. I just didn't know what I was looking at. 2 months before the wedding, Martin called me into his glass-walled office. The city skyline stretched out behind him like a painted backdrop, the kind meant to impress visitors. He gestured for me to sit, steepling his fingers in that way he did when he wanted to appear thoughtful. I hear congratulations are in order, he said, smiling. A wedding. Finally, you've kept this one under wraps. I laughed politely, trying to avoid the office gossip mill. Well, he said, leaning back, you've earned some time off. 2 full weeks. And don't worry about your accounts. We'll reassign them temporarily so you can enjoy yourself. It sounded generous, but something in the way he said reassign prickled at me. My accounts were my lifeline here. Losing touch with them, even briefly, could mean losing the client. Martin must have read my hesitation. It's just for the honeymoon, he assured me. We take care of our own. I thanked him, but as I walked back to my desk, I caught Melissa watching me from across the room. Her expression wasn't jealousy exactly, more like satisfaction, as if she'd been expecting this conversation. In the weeks that followed, Martin began asking me to send him direct copies of all project files, just in case something comes up while you're gone. I complied. After all, he was my boss. But I noticed he stopped CCing me on certain client threads. Melissa started hovering more, asking casual questions about where I'd be staying for the honeymoon, how many guests were invited, the exact timing of the ceremony. I told myself she was just nosy. It wasn't until much later that I realized she was collecting details. Not for curiosity's sake, but to help Martin time his move. The night before my wedding was supposed to be calm, final dress fittings. A quiet dinner with Ethan, maybe a glass of wine to help me sleep. Instead, it started unraveling by 7 p.m. I was sitting at the vanity in our apartment, removing my makeup when my laptop pinged. An email had slipped into my inbox from an anonymous account. No subject line, no greeting, just 9 words. Check your project files before tomorrow. You're being set up. At first, I thought it was some twisted joke, but the phrasing "before tomorrow" stuck to my ribs. Tomorrow wasn't just my wedding day. It was also the start of my 2-week leave. I tried logging into the company drive. My password, one I'd used for years, was suddenly incorrect. I tried again. Same result. On the 3rd attempt, the screen went blank before flashing a red message. Your account has been disabled. Please contact it. My heart began to hammer. I grabbed my phone and called Ethan. He was at the hotel with his groomsmen. His voice warm and steady. It's your wedding day tomorrow. Clara, whatever it is, it can wait. But it didn't feel like it could. My mind replayed the last few weeks. Martin taking my files for backup. Melissa's sudden interest in my schedule. The missing CCs on important emails. I emailed it from my personal account. No response. I called my assistant, who whispered that she couldn't talk and hung up. It was after midnight when I closed my laptop, staring at my reflection in the darkened screen. My wedding dress hung on the door, white and unblemished. And yet I couldn't shake the feeling that tomorrow would leave a stain no vow could cover. The morning of my wedding dawned soft and golden, the kind of light that photographers pray for. My bridesmaids bustled around the suite, curling hair, zipping dresses, and sipping mimosas. My mother's laugh filled the air. Ethan's text, "Can't wait to see you at the altar," glowed on my phone. For a few hours, the night before felt like a bad dream. My account lockout could wait. My world today was tulle lace, and the scent of white roses. I sat in the makeup chair, letting the artist work her magic. When my phone buzzed, unknown number, I almost ignored it, but something, maybe the memory of that email, made me answer. "Miss Hayes, this is Allison from HR. We need you to come into the office immediately. It's urgent." I laughed, thinking it was a prank. "It's my wedding day, Allison." Her voice didn't waver. "I understand, but it's in your best interest to come now. Bring your company ID." The room fell silent. My maid of honor mouthed, "What's going on?" "I can't just." "It's regarding a serious breach of confidentiality." Allison interrupted. "We have evidence tied to your login. If you don't come in today, it will be escalated without your input." My heart dropped. Your login. Within 20 minutes, I was in the backseat of a cab, my dress folded into layers of white tulle around me, makeup half finished. The city blurred past in streaks of glass and steel. As the cab pulled up to Greaves and Company, the building loomed larger than I'd ever seen it, its mirrored windows reflecting a bride who looked less like she was heading to an altar and more like she was walking into a trial. The stairs began the moment I stepped into the lobby. A bride in white satin, bouquet abandoned somewhere in the rush, train gathered in my arms to keep it from dragging. The receptionist's eyes widened, but she quickly picked up the phone and whispered something I couldn't catch. Allison from HR was waiting in the conference room. She didn't even try to hide her discomfort at the sight of me in my gown. "Clara, please sit." I lowered myself into the chair, heart pounding. "What is this about?" She slid a thick file across the table. "You are being terminated, effective immediately, for violation of client confidentiality and unauthorized distribution of proprietary materials." For a second the words didn't make sense. "Terminated, today." "This is insane," I said, flipping through the file. Screenshots of emails I'd never sent. Attachments I'd never seen. All dated and time-stamped under my login credentials. "I didn't send these." Allison's expression was carefully neutral. "The activity is tied to your account. Whether or not you initiated it, you are responsible under company policy." I thought of the anonymous warning, the revoked access, the missing CCs. "This is a setup," I said firmly. "You know my record, 7 years without a single breach." Before she could answer, the door opened and Martin stepped in. All corporate gravitas. "Clara," he said with mock sadness, "I'm disappointed. We wanted to celebrate your wedding day, not this." I wanted to scream, but all I could do was stare at him, searching his face for any crack in the performance. There was none. Allison slid the termination letter toward me. "Please sign to acknowledge receipt." The pen felt heavier than it should. Somewhere across the city, Ethan was waiting at the altar. And here I was, being dismantled in white. I didn't sign. I slid the pen back across the table and pushed the file toward Allison. If you think I'm going to accept this without a fight, you've underestimated me. Martin gave a slow, almost amused smile. You can fight if you want, Clara. But by the time you're done, your reputation will be ash. No firm will touch you. He left without waiting for a response, his cologne lingering like a warning. Allison avoided my eyes, murmured something about company policy, and excused herself. The moment I was alone, my phone buzzed a blocked number. I answered. Check the fourth floor supply closet. Bottom file drawer, a woman's voice whispered. Hurry and don't let them see you. The line went dead. Adrenaline drowned out the panic. I knew the voice, Harper, a junior accountant who always kept her head down. I'd never spoken to her beyond polite greetings. Why was she helping me? I made my way to the fourth floor, my heels clicking against the tile. Wedding dress swishing around my ankles like some absurd disguise. The supply closet was dark, smelling faintly of toner and paper. In the bottom drawer, under stacks of old folders, I found a manila envelope labeled vendor contracts, confidential. Inside were spreadsheets, payment authorizations, and a list of consultants who didn't exist, all linked to Martin's signature. Harper's voice echoed in my memory. Don't let them see you. Martin hadn't fired me because of a leak. He'd framed me to erase a witness. Those fake vendor accounts were a siphon, hundreds of thousands quietly bleeding out of the company. My breach was the perfect distraction. I stuffed the papers into my bag and smoothed my dress. If I was going down, I was taking him with me. I stood in the dim supply closet, clutching the envelope like it was oxygen. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Ethan. Clara, where are you? The ceremony starts in 15 minutes. Everyone's here. His voice was tight with worry. I closed my eyes. 15 minutes to walk down the aisle. Or 15 minutes to lose the only proof that could take Martin down. Something's happened, I whispered. I'll explain later, just stall. Stall, his voice rose. Clara, this is our wedding. I ended the call before I could talk myself into running to the church. My legs carried me to the elevator, dress and all, up to the executive floor. Martin's office door was half closed. Through the gap, I saw him on the phone, his tone low and confident. Yes, the breach is contained. She's gone, clean everything else by tonight, he said. I stepped inside, going somewhere Martin. He didn't flinch. Clara, you should be at your wedding. I will be, I said, placing the envelope on his desk. Right after I hand this to the board and the police. For the first time, his mask slipped. You have no idea what you're playing with. Those names on that list, they don't just belong to me. The implication landed heavy. Others were in on it. But it didn't change what I had to do. He stood slowly, straightening his tie. You think they'll believe you? A disgraced bride in a stolen dress. I smiled coldly. They'll believe your voice on the recording. His eyes narrowed just as I tapped my phone, stopping the recording app I'd started before walking in. Now I had two weapons, the paper trail and his confession, and I wasn't letting either go. I didn't walk out of Martin's office with the evidence right away. Instead, I slid the envelope back into my bag and tilted my head, as if considering his threat. Maybe we can work something out, I said. Suspicion flickered across his face, quickly replaced by smugness. Now you're being sensible, let's talk numbers. I took a deliberate step closer, pretending to lower my guard. If I drop the evidence, what do I get? Your silence bought, he said plainly. And maybe I'll make sure you find work again. Somewhere small. Somewhere no one asks questions. Every word was another nail in his coffin. The recording app on my phone was still running, capturing it all. I leaned forward, forcing my voice to tremble just enough to sound convincing. Fine, but I want the payment in writing, something I can hold in case you back out. His smirk deepened. You're learning. He scribbled a figure on company letterhead, an absurd amount that all but screamed hush money, and slid it toward me. That was my moment. I picked up the paper, folded it neatly, and slipped it beside the envelope in my bag. Pleasure doing business with you, Martin. He thought I was walking away defeated. He didn't know. I just walked away with enough to bury him. Outside his office, Harper was waiting by the elevator. Did you get it? She asked, eyes darting nervously. More than I hoped, I said. Now it's time to deliver it to the right hands. She hesitated. The right hands or the loudest ones? I glanced at my phone, already composing a group email addressed to the company board and Martin's top clients. Both, I said. It's time everyone heard the truth. And then I hit send. By the time I stepped out of the cab, my dress was creased, my hair frizzed from the rain. and my heart still racing from the email I'd sent less than an hour ago. The church doors loomed ahead, music faintly leaking into the air. Inside, guests shifted in the pews, their whispers bouncing off the vaulted ceiling. My mother's relieved gasp reached me first. Then I saw Ethan at the altar, hands clasped, jaw tight, eyes searching the aisle for me. I started forward, bouquet in one hand, the other brushing against my bag, inside. The evidence that was already exploding Martin's career. Halfway down the aisle, my phone buzzed. I ignored it until I reached Ethan. He leaned in, voice low. "Clara, are you okay? You're an hour late." I met his gaze and smiled faintly. I caught him. His brow furrowed. "Caught who?" "Martin," I whispered. "And by now so has everyone else." The efficient began, but my mind flicked briefly to the chaos unfolding across town. Board members opening my email, clients reading the attached contracts, and hearing Martin's own voice implicating himself. By nightfall, he'd be radioactive in the industry. Ethan squeezed my hand, anchoring me back to the moment. "We can talk later," he said softly. "Right now we get married." For the first time all day, I let myself breathe. The vows felt different now, not just promises to love and protect, but to fight beside each other no matter what tried to tear us apart. When we kissed, the church erupted in applause. Outside, the rain had stopped, and somewhere, in a skyscraper across the city, Martin Greaves was watching his empire collapse in real time. It was the first wedding gift I'd ever given myself.